You have tuned in for a slick podcast. I'm here to seek the truth. Live from Scotland, around the UK. The one and only Slick Podcast. Enjoy the show. Can I ask important questions? No matter how bizarre the truth might be. Tune in for Slick Podcast. Keeping it real, keeping it groovy.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, or a very good day to you when and wherever you're listening from. And a very warm welcome to this special edition of the Slick Podcast. I'm your host, Simon Laurie King. This particular episode is dedicated to friend of the show, Jared Murphy. Although he will not be joining us here today, but Jared's girlfriend, Mikayla, will be. Why? Simply put, our friend Jared is currently in hospital in the ICU. You guys know that myself and Jared are firm friends and talk regularly off air. So to be informed just over a week ago that he was in the ICU completely knocked me sideways. I've asked Mikayla to come on to the show and tell us what has gone on and why is our Jared where he is. So without further delay, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Mikayla to the show.
Hi there, how's it going?
Very good. How are you doing? Probably a stupid question because you're going to be really tired running on adrenaline. How's things going?
Yeah, I am hanging in there. We are just kind of antsy to get out of the hospital as it's been over 2 weeks at this point. And yeah, actually some of the adrenaline is starting to wear off now that we know Jared is okay and the tiredness is catching up. So hanging in there.
Mikayla, we really appreciate your time today, as I know you have far more important places to be right now. Jared is a friend of the show, as you know, and very well thought of by our listeners. And you have most graciously agreed to giving us the heads up on why Jared is in the intensive care unit. My first question has to be, what happened?
Yeah, so Jared was working on a job site. His day job currently, other than the podcasting stuff, is as a contractor, and he was at a job site and he was found unresponsive, and he had a massive heart attack called the Widowmaker because of where in his heart was affected. I guess a lot of people don't survive the experience. He was unconscious for quite some time and without a heartbeat because he had gone into cardiac arrest, and he had to receive CPR all the way over to the hospital by ambulance, and then they had to shock him multiple times to get his heartbeat back. So Memorial Day Monday.
Jared was, or rather is, super fit, an explorer, rock climber, runner, and was very strict with his diet. And I'm guessing this is what gave him the chance of coming back to us. What is the sort of treatment at the moment that he's receiving in the ICU?
You know, we've come a long way in the 2 weeks that we've been at the hospital. Initially, he was on life support for, I would have to go back and look, but I believe it was actually 8 or 9 days. So he was on a ventilator, and he was completely sedated and receiving lots of different heart medications. And he also had to have a balloon pump put in to help his heart beat properly, because at the time, post heart attack, his heart was literally not strong enough to beat on its own. He also had a stent put in to open up that artery that had gotten clogged, which was actually the cause of the heart attack. And he's been on a whole bunch of like heart pressure or heart rate and blood pressure medications to keep everything where it needs to be, and just being super closely monitored. There have been some other things that have progressed throughout the week, such as, you know, after he got extubated, he was receiving physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, because he has lost so much of his, you know, normal day-to-day function just from being in a coma for such an extended period, that his lungs were weakened, his muscles were weakened, his swallow mechanism was weakened. So he has had to slowly but surely like work with therapies to like rebuild that strength in all of those areas throughout the course of this last week. And it's honestly been quite a bit faster progress than we anticipated, but still a very slow and steady journey.
Is he able to communicate with yourself and the doctors at the moment?
Yes, Jared is able to talk. When he first came off of the breathing tube, his voice was very, very quiet and raspy, and he did not have enough literal breath in his lungs to get out a whole sentence, and it was very hard to understand him. But as his lungs have gotten a little bit stronger, as he was removed from oxygen a few days ago, and every day his voice and his vocal cords and all of that are getting a little bit stronger, and he's still not back to a full strength or volume vocally, but he is able to communicate and converse. Although I will say one of the things that is very common when you come out of being on life support for such a long time is to be in this really confused state, which the doctors call ICU delirium. So even though he has been able to communicate, there's definitely been a lot of confusion and amnesia and just incoherency. So he is, today much more coherent than he was last Tuesday when he was first woken. But yes, he is able to communicate, and we're extremely happy to hear his voice because, as all of you know, he loves to talk.
Absolutely. It's an absolute pleasure to talk to Jared. And we really do look forward to him coming back onto the scene, because as I know he would, he is, I said was, but he is super fit. That's what's kept him alive. I'm not going to keep you much longer, Mikayla, because like I said, I know you have far more important places to be and to do. But just briefly, we have talked about the short-term treatment that Jared, or you have, is currently in need of and what he's receiving. What about the long-term to recover fully and get back to an active life of work and recreation and back onto the exploration circuit? How long are we looking at, do you think?
That's a good question. I think in a lot of ways we're still trying to determine the answer to that. I will say he did get 4 of his ribs broken from receiving CPR. So first of all, there's some shorter long-term healing that needs to go on there in order for him to function normally. Because that process will take anywhere from 2 to 3 months before he feels even comfortable doing activity again, because of the pain from the broken ribs. But then in terms of the heart and lung function, his lungs are doing a lot better, but his heart is still really being evaluated, and he's going to have to do some kind of cardiac therapy treatment. We're not really sure what that's going to look like. We're hoping at this point that will be an outpatient situation, but really I only have a vague answer, which is I have heard a doctor say that it's probably going to be at least 6 months before he can get back to where he was at before in terms of his lifestyle, his job as a contractor, and maybe even a year before he starts doing things like climbing again. So
not to mention coming to Scotland, obviously you guys are thinking about doing that as well, are you not?
Yeah, we were very much looking forward to that, and some other travels, and we have yet to talk to the doctors about air travel. But really, I think one of the major concerns is just blood clotting, because that would be a really big risk for him right now. So sitting for a long period of time, whether a long road trip or a flight, is just not the safest thing. And then I guess in terms of another question regarding the long term, I forgot to mention that we are still waiting to hear whether or not the doctors think that Jared should get an ablation procedure, because he does have a little bit of an abnormal rhythm that keeps popping up from time to time, and that can be managed long-term with medication. But they think that procedure would be a better bet for him. So that is probably going to happen in the coming weeks if they deem necessary. And I think he still will be on blood thinners for a bit, but I don't quite know what that's going to look like going forward. So that's a big component when it comes to whether or not he'll be able to travel long distances, is whether he'll still at least be on the blood thinners or not.
But he is he's in a much better place than he was, and he's not at death's door. I'm trying to word this properly, like he would have been 2 weeks ago. He's not.
Yeah, I would say he is definitely stable. They have still been monitoring his vitals and are very pleased with what they're seeing. I think, of course, there's some future risk in terms of just like the heart issues in general, but we will start to kind of unpack that a little bit more as we work with some cardiac therapy doctors and kind of go from there. But yeah, he is doing well. Actually, technically a few days ago, his paperwork was signed off to be moved to a step-down unit because he no longer needs ICU level care, but there were no beds available, so he's just remained in the ICU anyways. So in that respect, that's a good sign that he's doing a lot better. Yeah,
that is good news, and also that he's in a much better place. Mikayla, I'm so grateful that Jared is still with us. My thanks must also go to the first responders who attended him initially, and to all those subsequently who have worked tirelessly to ensure that he continues to make a full recovery. On to you and to you as well, Mikayla. Before we wrap up, there is a GoFundMe page set up on behalf of Jared and the ensuing costs of treatment over the weeks and months to come, and also a Facebook page, I believe. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the Facebook page I just set up initially to have a place for people to go and share videos or messages to play for Jared. I think we anticipated that he was going to probably have a longer inpatient recovery process, but knowing Jared and his his previous state of health and just his determination, he has made leaps and bounds of progress a lot faster. But anyways, the Facebook page is for people to go and post things just for him to view and like have a community that he can see just following along on his journey and knowing how much like love and support is out there for him, and also just like not going directly to his phone so he doesn't feel that there's this pressure to respond and reply to every single thing, because that adds up, and we're really trying to keep him low stress for his heart and his recovery. So yeah, just if anyone wants to participate in that, I am the administrator and I will happily let people in and they can share videos, messages, anything that will make him laugh, whatever you think. And then the GoFundMe page, my sister helped me set up because obviously I had a lot on my plate in the last few weeks. So she is technically the organizer of that. So if the name is unrecognizable, that would be my sister. Yeah, we're just basically asking for support, knowing that Jared is not going to be able to go back to any of his jobs in the coming months, and we potentially may have to relocate back to home, our home state of Minnesota. We had been living in Utah currently, and it may not be sustainable to continue living there because of all of the doctor's visits he will have here. So cost of relocating, just continuing to pay his bills while he is unemployed for this period. And yeah, whatever medical bills that come up, because they definitely will.
We'd like to thank you for your time today, Mikayla. Before you go, know that our best wishes, hopes and prayers are winging their way to Jared, yourself and his family, from all of us at this show and its many listeners across the world. Mikayla, thank you.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate all the support from you and your community of followers and everybody that has followed along with Jared's journey. I appreciate it.
And that was the Jared Murphy special update episode. I really have appreciated Mikayla taking the time out of her day to come on to this show to officially inform Jared's listeners and followers of his situation. Having spoken with Mikayla over the last 8 days, I can tell you she is absolutely running on adrenaline and unsurprisingly completely shattered, having had very little sleep. Despite this, she has done an amazing job of not only supporting Jared as his loving partner, but reassuring everyone else and keeping us all in the loop as to his situation. I also know from what I've been told that Jared's phone hasn't stopped sounding off, with the many well wishes from around the world sending text, emails and voice messages. Mikayla has taken it upon herself to include us all in this process. Please click on the link below to join Jared's Facebook page and leave him a message of get well. Below is the link to the Just Giving page set up to help Jared and Mikayla with the mass of expenses that will soon mount up due to their current situation. Bottom line, folks, Jared has given a lot of himself over the years to us, and I for one am happy to help out with a donation and I ask that you consider doing the same also if you are able. If not a donation, then message your support on the Facebook page. The funnier, the better, as I know he would really appreciate it and benefit from a good laugh. Lastly, Jared, I know you're listening to this outro. Know that we are all sending our best wishes to you and are looking forward to you making a full recovery and returning to our airways once again. I'd like to thank you, my dear listeners, for your time today in attending this special episode. Please share it and do what you can by sending good thoughts to Jared and Mikayla. I'd appreciate that. And so, my friends, it's time for me to go. Until next time, stay safe, be happy, and certainly not afraid. Bye.
Slick Podcast. Keeping it real. And always keeping it groovy.